Hello, ciao, bonjour, and good day. My name is Omar Khan. I'm a labor law practitioner in Bangladesh. I run a law firm, which is also an employment and labor law based law firm, and we have the pleasure to advise at this moment as many as 500 organizations employing not less than 500,000 people, and thereby impacting the lives of 7 million people in Bangladesh. So I thought while we have been, or I have been advising so many organizations to build my knowledge base on certain important topics. On that backdrop, I took 2 courses last year in October and November in ITCILO. One was on International Labor Practices and RBC, and the other was on building effective labor dispute prevention and resolution system. So I would like to place my application on the second course that I have taken, because that I believe has been a game changer, not only for me or my firm, but also for the labor system in Bangladesh. Now, those who know Bangladesh and the labor system or the labor prevailing situation in Bangladesh, you would understand that it's not a very, it's not a bed of roses. It's quite volatile. We see a lot of, labor agitation, strike, even sometimes, vandalism, cases and disputes, closure of factories, and so on and so forth. So the whole thing here happens not always because of disputes or demands, but also mostly on the mistrust that the workers has on the management and the management has on the worker. So what is an eye-opener for me in the course is the content and the dimension and the perspective that I have learned. It did not only talk about the theory, it also went as far as discussing the psychology of dispute, which is a fascinating topic for me. So, and it also talks about, how a dispute arises, how it should be dealt with, what are the procedures, and what are the mindset, and the concepts of fairness, concepts of a time frame, and concepts of, all this procedural perspective. But also importantly, the distinction that I have actually appreciated is the right-based dispute and the interest-based dispute. I think that the employers in Bangladesh and even the employees in Bangladesh, even the government officials, the ministries are not always aware of this perspective from a procedural perspective, from a doctrinal perspective, from a psychological perspective. So what I have done after the course, I have understood that this can be a game changer in the labor law footprint in Bangladesh. So immediately I have taken a 3-day course of all my associates, who are 15 in number, and all of whom are engaged heavily in labor and employment law practice on this course. And I have multiplied my learning at least 15 times and passed into all our clients through our regular advisors on labor dispute resolution system. So we have worked through the advice, we have worked through the opinion, and most importantly, we have at least since then worked on dozens of collective bargaining agreements, and maybe as many as hundreds of HR service rule or employee handbooks of organizations, where I tried to specifically pass on these learnings to these organizations. And then I personally take trainings. I train the Ministry of Labor officials. I train sector-specific organizations and their trade associations, trade bodies, employers association, trade unions, and then of course the clients that we have. So through the training, they could understand the distinction and the concept. Most of them has realized it's not only important to quickly solve a dispute, but also to fairly and sustainably solve a dispute. So, and then I have also published at least 2 news bulletins which reach to 2,000 recipients of 2,000 organizations on each newsletter on these topics. So the learning that I had has been transformed into capacity building, and I can really see a very positive and transformative change in the labor market. Particularly the mindset of the employer has been dramatically changed through our advice to a positive dispute resolution system, and they see it as an alternative to litigation, and they see it as a means of a growth and a healthy working relationship between workers and employer. This is why I am applying for the Alumni Award, and I believe the training has made an enormous impact in the labor market of Bangladesh. Thank you.